We're talking today with David Cote of Bismarck, North Dakota. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. So we begin at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
Born in Bottineau in 6/20/49.
That's in North Dakota.
In North Dakota, Bottineau, North Dakota.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you grow up there?
Yes, my parents moved when I was a year and a half old to Williston, and I stayed there pretty much my entire life.
And what was your family doing for a living then?
My dad was a truck driver, and my mother was a homemaker.
Okay. All right. And did you finish high school?
Yes.
When did you graduate?
68.
Okay. And what did you do after you got out of high school?
I worked on a ranch and did just jobs, the summer jobs and stuff. Just worked right through. And according to the police department, raised hell. So that was why I got drafted. The police department used to call the draft board, or the draft board would call the police and say, "Who do you want out of here this month?"
Okay.
And I was chosen.
Okay.
Got drafted.
So before you got drafted, were you paying much attention to Vietnam or people getting drafted?
Not really. No, not as much as I probably should have. No, I didn't.
All right. And so, roughly when then do you report for duty?
I think it was April. I think it was in April of '69.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And where did you go for basic training?
I went to got on a train in Fargo, North Dakota, and went to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay.
Took my basic training there.
All right. And describe what basic training was like.
It was a whole different world compared to what I was like. A number of things. One thing, either you were expected to do certain things, and if you didn't, there was consequences, which there always was in life, but not to that degree. There was in North Dakota, there was no black people. I mean, there wasn't any, and I think there was in the town I grew up in was 12,000, and there was one. The only one that I can remember when I'm growing up.
All right.
When I got to there, about half the company was black and the other half white. So, that was just a cultural shock too. Because I dealt with them, I'd never talked to one. So,
all right. And how well did the black and white recruits get along?
Basic training, pretty good actually. I think everybody was under the same influence. They were scared shitless and didn't know what to expect. So. Yeah, they all kind of got together, and it was okay,
Did you have a sense of where the other recruits were from?
A little bit, you talk among yourselves, you get a few, but they were from all over. It was very open, exchange, so yeah.
All right. And what were they trying to teach you there?
Basically to be an infantryman, Basic training was your basic 8 or 9 weeks, whatever it was, and they just taught to get us physically fit probably first. That was a primary goal, I thought. And then they would give you some tests, and you would then they would rate the tests and do whatever they wanted, and then they would decide your MOS, which is where you were going to be,
right? What
you were going to do,
And at that point in '69, they probably needed a lot of infantrymen.
Yeah, they were going through them pretty hard, and we you get the scuttlebutt and everybody's talking and everything, and I went in with a buddy of mine at the same time. I just kind of knew him growing up, and he when we have, I think about 3/4 through basic, then they give you your MOS, and mine was 11 Bravo, which is infantryman, and his was artillery. So we were shocked that he got artillery and I got infantry. I mean, I don't know why he got it, but there was a lot of that going on. They just took you wherever they needed you, is what it amounted to.
Right. And how much emphasis was there on discipline?
Quite a bit. Yeah, there was we had drill sergeants, and they were still, when I went through basic training, it was still that they could put hands on you. And like, I wasn't even through AIT later, maybe, 12, 14 weeks later, that they couldn't touch you anymore. But at that point, when I went in, they could still touch you, and they did touch you. You know. So.
Now, if you had been a little bit of a hellraiser when you were back home, did you just behave yourself, or did they have to make you behave?
No, I think I probably picked up on it enough to understand that I had to do what I was told, or face consequences. So yeah.
All right. And then where did you go for your advanced training?
Fort Lewis, stayed right there at Fort Lewis.
Okay. And then describe what that course consisted of.
That was, it showed you how to shoot weapons, pistols, rifles, machine guns, throw grenades, shoot laws. And basically it kind of honed your map reading skills and your survival skills and knowing that we're going to Vietnam. I mean, infantry was going to Vietnam, so probably took it a little more serious than basic, because by then it's starting to sink in that, this could be you. You're going to be there and you're going to face some pretty ugly situations and you need to be able to handle it. So,
did you have instructors there who had been to Vietnam?
Yes, we did. And they kept telling us, you need to listen to us, because you are going to be there. And they were right, So, yeah, I had a couple pretty good. I had a drill sergeant who was really good. I don't remember his name or anything, but he would sit down and talk to you and tell you this is real, and that made a difference. So.
All right. And then how long was AIT? Another 8 weeks, or
8 or 9 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
And then at that point, do you get to go home before Vietnam, or?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I went home for everybody says before you go overseas you always get 30 days leave. Well, I got 6, and I was irritated about it because everybody else is getting 30 days and I only got 6. So I went to the airport on the 6th day to go back to Lewis, and I said, you know what? I don't need to go here that bad. So I took a couple extra days and then got on the plane and went to Lewis.
And then, did anybody care when you got
back?
back?
Yeah, they cared. They broke me. When you come out of basic AIT, you're a PFC 3, E3 they call it.
Yeah.
And when I came back, they busted me to an E1, and then I walked out that door and they gave me orders for an E3 because they couldn't ship you over unless you're E3. So but they did take some money, which was irritating to me,
Sorry.
Yeah, it was.
So, now, how did they get you to Vietnam? When
Yeah, they put us on a commercial flight with everybody going to Vietnam, and we landed in Hawaii, and I think there was another place, I don't remember where it was, but we landed a couple times and refueled, and then got to Hawaii, Cameron Bay, we came into.
Okay. And what's your first impression of Vietnam when you get there?
It stinks. It stunk. It was a different smell, musty, decay smell.
Mm-hmm. And what do they do with you when you get off the plane?
When we got off the plane, they took a bunch of us that were 11Bs, infantry, and I don't know, they had picked so many, and we had to be perimeter guards at Cameron Bay, which meant you had to go up and stand in these towers all night, and then in the morning you'd come down, do a formation, and then you were off the rest of the afternoon till that evening again. So we actually went to the beach in Cameron Bay, and nice white sand beach, but we didn't know where anything was, so we were kind of hesitant to do too much. So,
did they give you any other kind of orientation there?
Little. I think it was an hour-long talk of what to expect and what not to expect, and so yeah.
Not too much. All right. And at this point, you're still waiting for orders.
Right. I didn't know where I was. Where I was going. I know it was infantry. That's all I knew. So.
And how long did you stay there?
I think it was 6 or 7 days, and then they'd rotate a new batch of guys in, and we had to go out.
All right. And where do they send you?
Then they called a formation like they did every morning. We went out there, and they pulled some guys for the 25th, and they pulled some for this and for that, and they said, you guys left here, you're all going to 101st Airborne. And guy standing next to me, he says, "Are you airborne?" I said, "Hell no, I'm not airborne." And he said, "Sergeant, we're not airborne." He said, "Well, you are now." And so that's how we got into the airborne. And so then they sent us, I think, they sent us right to a search company, which was where you could learn to repel and do some stuff. And that was up north, I think out of
Camp Evans or Eagle?
it wasn't Camp Evans. I think it was Eagle.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we were there for, I think search was 10 days.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay, you're the Screaming Eagle replacement.
Yeah.
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 Okay. And well, what did that consist of?
That consisted of jumping off walls with repelling off walls, and then repelling off towers that were open, and then eventually, I think this third day, you went up into a helicopter, and they actually took you up and you jumped, or they pushed you out, one of the two. Yeah.
All right. Okay. And then what unit do you get assigned to?
Second of the 506.
The 2nd Battalion, 506th Regiment, and 101st. And then which company?
B.
Okay. So regular line company.
Yep, that's a line company, yeah.
All right. And now this is late 1969 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And was the company in the field when you joined them, or were they back on the base?
They were in the field.
Okay.
And I think I was at their well, it was at Evans. Cause they
had a company area.
They sent me to the company area. I met First Sergeant. And I think there was 4 or 5 of us that came in at the same time, because 101st had been beat up pretty bad, and they needed replacements. So we didn't have obviously a choice where we were going. But First Sergeant Reeves was I think he was the first sergeant then. Yeah. And we were there probably 2 days. We got weapons and ammo and all your gear and rucksacks, and they put us on a supply chopper going out, and we went to the field.
Okay. And where were they at the time?
They were up in the mountains, right above the Ashaw Valley, and close to Ripcord. Although, when you're a grunt and you're a PFC, you don't get a map or you don't get anything. They just tell you go over here.
Right.
And that's so that really bothered me. I didn't know where I was going, because I'm kind of one of them that I want to know what's going on, and I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But that's not the way the Army operates. So
Right.
but I jumped out and got right. The resupply was coming into 2nd platoon, which platoon sergeant was platoon sergeant was Paul Hansman, which. I still know to this day and keep in touch with.
He's here.
Yeah, he's here. And he's the first one I met when I jumped out of the helicopter, and he grabbed me, threw me down on the ground, and because it wasn't a hot LZ, but it was, they're all considered hot. So, and I just started. I think it was I don't remember what squad I was in, but the next day I walked point.
Oh.
Excuse me, I walked slack.
Okay.
Slack for the point man.
Yeah.
Who I saw for maybe 5 minutes, and he disappeared, and I had to literally run to keep up. I never saw him for hours. I knew.
Were you on a trail?
Yeah, we were on a trail. We stayed on this trail. We should just follow the trail. And I didn't think I had to worry about anybody shooting me, because I was going to die of exhaustion before I ever. Because as a new green guy, I had way too much gear, and after the first week, you decide what you can keep and what you can't keep, and because you're going to carry it all. And our rucks were heavy, they really were. So.
All right. And at that time, what was the weather like then?
It was hot. It was really hot. It was in the mountains, but you're in triple canopy, so it's hot, but it's also very humid, because the air can't get to you. You can't see the sun. So.
All right. And how long were you out in the field before you came back in?
I don't know. I mean, it kind of all just ran together. I know there was times when we were out 50, 60 days at a time before they take us in on a stand down. So I don't know.
All right. And at that time, when you're first with the unit, was there much contact with the North Vietnamese?
No, there really wasn't much. They were doing a lot of riffs, but not really making contact at all. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, we'd hit something, our sister company would hit something.
So you got a chance to kind of break in a little bit and get used to the conditions.
You kind of decide who you're going to hang with and who you're not, and who's the good guys, who's the ones that don't give a shit deal. So yeah, you do. You figure it out.
And do you remember who your platoon leader was at that point?
It was Paul Hansman.
Well, he'd been a sergeant.
Yeah.
But the lieutenant.
No, I don't.
Yeah. They came and went. So.
Yeah, they were always in and out all the time. Yeah, I don't, and names and dates really don't mean a whole lot to me. They never have. I just kind of do what I do. And
all right.
So
initially you're out there and you're kind of in mountainous terrain in the jungle, so you're going up and down a lot and so forth.
Right.
All right, but not a whole lot of enemy activity. And then does the weather start to close in on you?
Yeah, it gets into fall, and then we get into the monsoons, and it's cold up there. You think of Vietnam, we always think of heat. But we slept out all the time. There was we never went to the rear, and what we had was a poncho and a poncho liner, and you couldn't rig a poncho up high where you could keep the rain off it, because you could see them a long ways. They didn't want that. So you could see your breath. It was that cold up there, and wet all the time and raining, and so yeah, it was an adventure,
Okay. Now they eventually have to take you out if you're out there in the monsoon and they can't support you.
Right.
Yeah.
If you couldn't get in, there was times we went without food.
Mm-hmm.
5-6 days without a resupply, and you'd scrounge everything out of your rucks you had and then eat that and trade with everybody, and so everybody got something. But they did take us in. They'd take us in on stand down, and it was still raining in the rear, so it was just as wet.
Okay.
And they'd let you take a shower.
So that would be back at Evans. You're not just going to a fire base.
You're going back to Evans, because the first fire base I ever went on was April 1st, Ripcord. I went up on that, and that was nothing, just a big old bald rock.
Yeah, they hadn't built it yet. So.
No.
Okay, so you're out there, so you get there. So the early part of 1970, now you're going to be mostly in the lowlands?
We were kind of...
Or foothills, or...
Yeah, we're in the foothills probably more than anywhere, up and down, yeah. But not like the mountains,
Okay. And at least part of the battalion went up to the DMZ when they were taking the Marines out. Did your company go up there, or did you say so?
No.
Okay. Charlie Company went.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I wasn't involved in that. No.
All right. And so, still, did you go to any of the fire bases in the foothills? Did you go to Jack or one of those places?
No, I don't think we did until we went to Ripcord.
Okay.
I think that was really the first time.
All right. And now, and somewhere along the line in there, Bill Williams takes over your company.
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember that happening, or you just remember him as a commander later on?
I just remember he took over, and I didn't know him. We were never. I guess he worked with his headquarters group.
Yeah.
And I think he always went with 3rd Platoon. I don't remember for sure, but because we weren't hooked up with him at all ever.
Okay.
The 2nd was kind of like black sheep guys, so we had some cowboys, so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So really, you first, that maybe 6 months or so before April 1st, seems relatively safe.
Yeah.
Not a lot of losses, or
we hit a little bit of stuff, but some of the stuff we brought on ourselves. That had some putting out mechanical ambushes and people got hurt, and killed, and that was our own issue. It wasn't anybody shooting at us or nothing. A few mechanical booby traps, a few of them, not a lot, but a few.
Okay. But you're really not encountering any North Vietnamese soldiers.
No, not on a no.
Okay.
Not really.
So now, so April 1st, 1970. That's when 101st tries. It's their second effort to establish a fire base on the hilltop that becomes Ripcord, and B Company is the one that's sent in. So, what do you remember about that day?
I remember we came in and they told us when we got on the helicopters going in it was going to be a hot LZ. and which means that they're shooting at you, and so you need to get off these choppers, and I mean 3 feet above ground, you better be ready to jump, because you got to go, you know. And so, and you're still carrying all your rucks and everything. And I jumped off and I took off, and I don't remember who was I think Paul was in charge of our group, and he kind of took us off to it would have been the northeast corner. And we set up a perimeter there, and we were taking a little bit of small arms fire, but nothing, and no mortar rounds. But back on the LZ where we came off of, they were taking mortar rounds almost continually, and nobody was really prepared because it was hot, and we ran out of water right away. And in fact, they came over, and somebody told somebody that I don't remember what the deal was, but they said, you need to start shooting out, shooting down, shooting to the north here. And I'm going, well, what do you want us to shoot at? I mean, just, and I didn't get all that. I didn't understand it. I knew I'm not going to shoot all my ammunition up. I know that, But anyway, we ran out of water. Everybody was out of water. And so I said, I'll go get water, because they said there's water at the LZ where we come in. So I took all the canteens I could carry, and I ran down there to get water. And I met Williams there, and there was some other officer. I don't remember who it was. Yeah. And I told them I needed water, and they sent me to the water, the Buffalo, what do they call them? The Blivet, and I got some water and started back over. Well, they were getting mortars up there all the time. And so you'd hear them coming in, and you'd lay down and crash. And there was a trench between us and the LZ, and on the way over I stopped in there because there was mortars coming in. I got down in the trench. There's 3 guys in there, and I went and got the water, and I come back, and I jumped back in because they were coming in again. And when I jumped out and I took off running, and I heard an explosion behind me, and the mortar had hit that trench. So those guys were hurt. I turned around and looked, and the guy says, go. The other guys were off the LZ, said, just go. So I took off and brought the water back. And so they were getting all kinds of incoming, and we weren't. I mean, we weren't getting nothing over there. It was like, you could have laid out a beach out there. We were laying right out there and dug little small manhole, but nothing big, nothing like a bunker. And they kept getting it, and they just kept coming, these artillery, and these mortars kept coming in, and then they shot down a helicopter, and I saw that go down right up on the LZ. And then they started, then it was just about dark, and then they decided where we're going to walk off. I thought somebody was joking when they said that we were going to walk off this fire base in the middle of the night, darker. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And they put it together, and they came off. We came off. I was probably one of the last 6 guys off. And they were real, there was a Jolly Green Giant up there dropping flares, so they were lit pretty good. But they wanted us to watch, so nobody snuck in our lines when we're walking down off this trail. We walked down, and then about halfway down, they had charged a helicopter with some deck charges, and they blew that up. It was on a fuse quarter, anyway, it blew up about halfway down the hill. Scared the bejesus out of everybody, because we didn't know what was going on, but it made a big bang and a lot of fire. So we got down and we stumbled into another company, and they just told us just crash, because we'd been up over 20 hours, So we just crashed there for the night, and we got up, and then we went one way and they went one way. And
now some of the people from your company talked about how you guys didn't have any food with you.
No.
And actually, Alpha Company, which you joined, they didn't have much food either.
No.
They said they gave you some
sea rats.
Yeah. Actually, they were the work rations. I think is what they had. At least that's what the company made.
Yeah, I didn't get any of them.
Yeah, but there wasn't a lot. Some of us were kind of annoyed.
And there wasn't obviously enough to go around to everybody. But we were the last ones in, so I don't even remember what time we got there, but it was late. Yeah, late, early morning is what it was. So.
And then you spend a couple more days in the jungle before you get out again?
Yeah, we did. And I never did get that theory of why if they didn't resupply us food because they thought we'd be too much to carry.
Well, my understanding was that there was food that had been dropped there, was going to be dropped up on top of the hill. That's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and we weren't there.
Yeah,
right?
you weren't there to eat.
Right.
Yeah. And then after that, you were socked in for a couple of days with weather before they could get something. Yeah. So that's kind of a mess. Right. So that's kind of your introduction to the war.
Yeah.
Right there. All right. So after that event, now what happens?
Then we just started doing patrols in the jungle, in the mountains. We were in the mountains and we were doing up and down hills. That's kind of where it was at.
Okay. So typical day when you're out in the mountains, how does that work, or what's the sequence of events?
Well, somebody was on each. There was we call them fighting positions or whatever, but there's probably 4 or 5 guys in each position. Out of that group, then everybody would. You had a watch. Somebody had a watch, and you were on guard for 2-3 hours, and then you pass the watch to the next guy, and you could crash. Mm-hmm. And in the morning when it got light, then you'd wake. You wake up and you try. If you had food, you'd try to heat some food up or something, or make some coffee or hot chocolate, whatever you had. Knowing that you had to carry your water all the time, so you're somewhat careful, how much water you were using. And then we'd move. They knew we had to move. We had to move. They wanted us to move. I think it was 2 or 3 clicks. I don't remember what it was, but there was a set distance we should move every day because you didn't want to just stay in that position. Mm-hmm. And so then we would move, and sometime during the day they'd take breaks on the trail. We'd just walking down the trail or cutting our way through the trail, making the trail, mm-hmm. and you just sit down and take a break and have a cigarette and a drink of water, and then they'd pick up and we just all move down the road again.
Okay. And you're kind of going sort of April, May, June of 70. Now, as you're doing this, are you seeing signs that there are NVA around?
Yeah, there seemed to be more. We stumbled on a cave complex once, and I don't remember if it was before Ripcord or after. I think it was before. I think it was, and we stumbled into that thing, and I never did actually go down into the caves, but some guys had to go down. They actually dropped some tear gas in, some crystals, not the gas, but the crystals, and they went down there and spread that all over down there so they couldn't use it again. And I was actually walking slack when we ran into that thing, and the guy behind me hollered bunker, and I couldn't even see it. That's how thick the jungle was, but he saw. And there was nobody in it. It was all abandoned. So otherwise, we could have got smoked really easy there.
Yeah. And did you sometimes encounter NVA when you'd actually get in any firefights?
Yeah, you'd get a few. You'd stumble into one, or they'd stumble into you, and yeah.
And how long would they last?
Just a few shots and they're gone, and I mean they just take off. We could never get them to stand and fight. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously they wouldn't fight with us. I mean, we were way better equipped than they were for that. So.
All right. Now, in this period before July, would the platoons operate individually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you sometimes break into squads and go separately? Or
not so much.
Okay.
They tried to keep them pretty. That was squad to get 5-6 guys. There isn't very many guys out there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, still, there's still. And did you have a sense, say, over the course of those couple of months, was there more NVA there by June?
Yeah, you could almost feel the buildup. I mean, you'd see more trails, you'd see tracks, and you could hear dogs. That always was my thing. I could hear, they always had dogs with them. You could hear them bark at night, mm-hmm. and then you knew you were close to them. But
so it's out there, but for a while anyway, nothing's happening.
Right.
Now, you get to 1st of July, at that point, they start shooting mortars at Ripcord again.
Yep.
And where were you when that started? Were you still in the field?
When we went to Ripcord?
Well, no, right before you went to Ripcord. So when the bombardment of Ripcord started, you were still in the field?
Yep.
Okay. And were you in a position where you could actually see Ripcord?
No, we couldn't see it, we could hear it.
Yeah.
You know, but we couldn't see it, you know, that I can remember. There was a lot of airstrikes off to the, I think it would be to the south of Ripcord, quite a bit in there. We were between Ripcord and the airstrikes. I mean, we were kind of, but we were moving all the time. They made us move all the time, which, you know, hindsight, that's probably the best thing we ever did because they couldn't track us down. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then early morning on July 2nd, and Charlie Company gets overrun on Hill 902, and then I think your company goes around toward 805. So you're operating kind of around Ripcord in different places, and then there's also a point when there's a lightning strike.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, there was a couple of lightning strikes in there because it was still kind of the monsoons, but it was weird. It was monsoons, but it was still hotter than hell, you know. And, yeah, I remember one of the RTOs had a PRC 25 under his poncho. It was raining, and he had that extended antenna up alongside his neck here, and he got cracked with, I think the lightning hit the antenna, and it burned his neck here. It made him goofy. He didn't even know where he was. I saw him 2 days after that, and he still wandered around, didn't know where he was. You know, which, I don't know why the hell I didn't take him out, you know, because they had to, you know, but that's...
Yeah, and I think right before that, some of the people in your company said they saw a white man.
Yeah, not my company, but one of the companies.
Or it was B company that B company people were talking about,
right?
But not your platoon.
Yeah, they saw his patrol walking, MBA patrol, and there was a white guy walking, and they were so taken back by that they didn't open up on him. They didn't do anything. They just let him go by, and they disappeared. And you know, nobody really knew who this white guy was walking with his MBA, but he was carrying a gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so obviously he was a combatant, and they could have opened up on him. I mean, hindsight's great, you know, but it's, everybody was so just kind of went, you know, did you see that or not, you know? Yeah, I remember hearing about that, yeah.
Okay. And then in early July, your company takes over perimeter defense on Ripcord.
Right.
All right. And by then, the bombardment has started as well. So what's life like for you on the hilltop then in July?
Well, we had perimeter security. Mm-hmm. Bravo did. Yeah. And but they were still sending us out on rifts every day, patrols. Right. And you go out and it was very well fortified. I mean, we spent a lot of hours putting wire and sandbags up, you know, digging bunkers and doing all this stuff, and then we were still going out. I mean, we were just around the base. I don't know what they thought they were going to stop anybody coming up, but sending, 10, 12 guys out there isn't a good thought on my part. But, they did what they did. And I wasn't running the show, obviously, so I did what I was told. It bothered me that we'd have to go out there because they're right there. I mean, you can feel them, and now you're walking around down there stirring up a hornet's nest,
And did you stir up any opposition, or did they just
No, they never would make contact. We know they were there. We would, you could see them, or not really see them, but you could just sense they're there, and they just melt away again. They wouldn't come out and fight with you,
Now, did you have a kind of one set defensive position that was kind of your hole at that time?
Yep.
And do you remember what it was facing toward?
It was facing to the south. It was right below where the Chinook pad was for the ammo.
Okay.
It was right, and it was right on the right side, facing down the hill was the garbage dump was right there.
All right. And now, how safe was it being on the base down? were you basically safe as long as you were in your hole, or?
Yeah, I mean they had it zeroed pretty well with their mortars. They were, I mean they knew what they were doing, because they'd sit on the back side of a slope away from you,
Yeah.
and shoot over, you know, so you couldn't even tell where it was coming. You could usually hear it, the pop, the mortar round was coming, then you hear it coming in, and but you know, there was no safe area, that's for sure.
And I guess if you were close to the Chinook pad, then you're close to where a lot of the mortars are coming.
Yeah. But they always seemed to be up on top more than down on the side, which you know suited us well, you know. But yeah, it's there was more. They were trying to get the Chinooks or the Hueys, you know, when they were coming in and out.
Okay.
So
Now there were, you know, some fights going on some of the hills around Ripcord at that point. Hill 1000. I mean, could you see 1000 from where you were, or was that the wrong direction?
no, I think it was the wrong. I think it was
Hill
off to
805?
the right.
How about Hill 805? That was more,
805 was right to the
that's to the
east.
Yeah.
The east, and we couldn't see it, but you could hear it. I mean, you knew when they were getting in a firefight or the mortars were coming in or whatever, and then they'd call in airstrikes or Hueys coming in with the miniguns, you know, Cobras coming in. So
Okay. And was your company taking casualties at that point?
a few, not a lot, but a few. Yeah, there was a few.
Okay.
More, not KIAs, just injuries, you know, injured.
Okay. And then on the 18th of July, that's when a Chinook crashes on the helipad and then blows up an artillery battery and so forth. And
Yeah, well, that was the ammo dump underneath it.
Yeah.
And the fuel ran down into it.
Okay. Now, what do you remember? What did you see or hear from where you were?
It was a lot of explosions. The 105s were blowing out of there, and they were coming down the hill, rolling right by us. The 105.
The artillery pieces, yeah.
And I mean, you just didn't get out of your hole. You hope to God one of them didn't roll into your hole. You know, they didn't want you. I mean, they just said, you know, get in your holes, and we did. And that was and they cooked off a long time. They were still blowing shells. I don't know how many hours it was, but the Chinook was full of avgas, and that all, when it hit, it crashed, all ran down into buffer, so it's all burning, plus the shells blowing up once in a while, you know, so.
So did some of the bunkers have to get evacuated at that point?
No, I don't think they did, because it was up high enough, and the shells that were rolling down the hill were blowing out, and they're not hot enough to cook off, so. But, yeah, there was a lot of action. It was, I mean, and you know, those fighting positions, you only get maybe 2, maybe 3 guys could actually look out at one time.
Mm-hmm.
The rest had to get down underneath because there wasn't enough room, you know. So.
Okay. And then not too long after that, they decided to abandon the fire base.
Right.
And
well, the day, you know, and from a grunt's point of view, we should have got the hell out of there earlier, but they weren't, and Lucas was going to hold it, you know. I never met the man personally and talked to him, but the morning that they were making plans to evacuate, then Lucas and his RTO were killed. A mortar landed right at their feet up by the talk, and yeah, it was.
All right. Now, what was the process for actually evacuating the hill? I mean, what happened to your the guys that you were with?
We just all started pulling back. You know, we kind of knew the word was out. We were going out this morning, and we couldn't take our rucks. We couldn't take anything but your 16 and 1 bandolier magazines, and that was what they wanted you to take, no more. I mean, I took my can along. I had a can, a 30 caliber ammo can that I put all my personal stuff in. It was waterproof, and that's. I mean, almost everybody did that. You know, took them.
They probably didn't want the helicopters weighed down any more than they.
No, because what they were doing, they weren't. You know, they used to do a chalk. You know, with 5 or 6 guys. This was the deal. This helicopter came in, and you were there. You ran and jumped on, and you know that was. And if there's too many, they couldn't get them on the floor because they wanted out. The helicopters weren't really landing. They were coming in and slowing down, and you had to run and jump on. And as that was going on, they're dumping mortar rounds, In fact, the helicopters would come in and do like they were going to land and then pull off. And then they'd pop their mortar arms and they couldn't get another set in. They'd swing around and land or slow down. And we just kept pulling the perimeter back up to the top of the hill. And there was all kinds of gear up there. I mean, there was 105s, 155s. There was a stack of starlight scopes, which are night scopes, and they're big boxes. And I must have been 20 of them up there. And mortar rounds or mortar tubes, and we were running around blowing stuff up, and we kept shrinking the perimeter. Well, and also in the back of your mind, that if you wait too long, you're not going to get out, and so that was kind of it was a hairy time. It was Shag, which was one of our 60 gunners. He was coming up the hill. I remember this coming out of the bunker. He got out of the bunker and he started walking up. And Bird, his A gunner, was out in front of him carrying 2 ammo cans of belted ammunition for the 60. And Shag had the 60 just strapped on him. And the helicopter's coming, and these guys, I mean, they pulled us out of there. So what can you say? They were coming in knowing they were going to get shit shot out of them. And those machine gunners, the door gunners on them things, were firing up everything. They're firing up our hill. I mean, we're trying to get up there, and they're firing up and Shag was holding a box full of ammo, and one of the rounds hit the box and blew it out of his hand.
Wow.
And I'll never forget this. He turned to Shag, who was behind him, coming with the 60, had a half a belt hanging out, and he said, "Shoot that son of a bitch, Shag." And Shag let her rip. And he didn't shoot the helicopter, but he shot right behind him. He followed him all the way in with the tracer rounds, And it's one of those deals. It's just so bizarre that I laughed. I mean, I thought it was funnier than hell because Bird just said, "Shoot that son of a bitch, Shag," and he did. Shag was that way. He was.
Were you taking any machine gun fire or small arms fire, or just mortars? I
think it was mostly mortars. There might have been, some guys said that they saw some come through the wire already, but I didn't see them. I mean, personally see them.
Yeah, a lot said they saw, but the people in best position to know, and things, the Northeast didn't climb the hill. People said they did, but no one's,
I didn't see any.
No, the officers, and the last people off the hill didn't see any, and the helicopters
I didn't.
But you could easily have thought they'd all be coming for you. Like the sense you have as you're working up toward the top of the hill to where you're going to get taken off.
Right.
And so the perimeter is shrinking, so you can very much feel like that's coming and that's happening. Yeah. That's one of the striking things about a lot of these stories. A number of guys who swear that there are a lot of ants down there all coming up.
Yeah, I didn't see any coming through the wire.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so you get off. And you get back, you go back to Camp Evans?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And what's
company area?
Yeah. And now, what does that feel like when you get back there?
Well, it was just, because it was so chaotic going, coming out, that you didn't know who made it and who did make it. And when we got back to the company area, everybody's kind of walking around just shaking hands with everybody because, hey, you made it, we got off that damn thing, and it was interesting because I think it was the next day, they let the press in, and but we got the lecture before that. You don't talk to these people. You don't. And they had assigned a couple guys to talk to them. I think what the deal was. I don't remember. A couple of the E5s were talking to him, but they didn't ask me any questions. And I'm just stumbling around out there. So. Because they had kept him off Ripcord. They wouldn't let him up there, which was probably the good part of that was they could operate the way they wanted to. The bad part was if all that press had been coming in how bad it was, we'd have probably got out of hell of a lot quicker,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a speculation thing, so.
Yeah. Okay. And now, so what happens to your company after that? Do you get a stand down? Do you just
I think we did. I don't know if we went to Eagle Beach. I'm not 100% sure. I assume we probably did. If not, we went. Well, I know we ended up back out in the field again. So, right back out, almost in the same area. You know, in fact, there was a lot of upset people about that because we knew how many were out there. But I do also know that they called in some B-52 strikes in there and they cleaned house pretty good. You know, I've seen pictures of Ripcord after the strike and it's like, oh my God, you know. Yeah, there's holes in there you could drive 6 tanks into, you know. So.
Now, when you go back out in the field again, had the NVA kind of gone back undercover?
Yeah, I think there was a few still. There was a few probably more firefights than there was before. They were trying to pull ambushes more than anything because they know we were moving, you know. And if they could figure out which direction we were going, then they'd set up an ambush and try to get us, you know. Yeah, it's there was once they had a dog and everything, and I think they shot the first. I don't remember what company it was, but we went over there to help them, and we pulled the bodies out, and they were. In fact, me and the other guy had to carry that dog out, which I didn't quite get, but I mean, they had already shot the dog. I mean, they had shot the dog. And it was funny because they weren't using the dog right. They should have had him up front, and they didn't. They had him like second or third back. Well, you just destroyed anything he can do, you know. That's my thought on it. But they shot the dog. I mean, they did, because we had to carry him out down a hill and up a hill. So, yeah.
Right. And then how long then do you stay with the company?
I think then we did another stint for a couple of months probably, and then I kept thinking that I needed to get out of the line company and go to Echo, you know, to a recon team. And the reason I went big basically was the recon team seemed to have their shit together. I talked to a few of the guys, and one of my buddies, Chip Collins, went into recon, and he told me about it, and he said, you know, it's and then at that time, all that same time, there were drops coming down, so you didn't have to spend a full year. And some of them were getting 30-day drops, which is, 30 days you can go home earlier. But then I talked to the guy, and he said, if you extend, then when you go home, you'll you're out.
Yeah, you leave the Army entirely.
Yeah, you're out of the Army, and that clicked. I wanted out. I mean, and I thought going to recon would be a lot actually safer because you got 5-6 guys. You can hide 5-6 guys way easier than you can 100 company guys. So.
Yeah. Okay. So how does the recon unit operate? Can you describe what you're doing with them?
Okay. Well, you go. You go out. Like I said, they take you out one time on a mission, and if they were okay with you being in it, then they'd accept you. Then you could be on it. You would join one of the teams, and when the teams went out, then you go out and do more, not so much ambushing, but getting information is what they wanted. You go around and try to find people, which way they were going, how they were going, and so you didn't really want to make contact. I mean, if you could avoid it, you avoided it, which suited me fine, We did get in a couple little things, but nothing real major,
So you didn't get in trouble where they had to come rescue you, or?
No.
Okay.
No, well, the other thing was, if you're in the recon team, line company go out for 60 days, there's nothing for them. The recon team, you go out 4 or 5 days, and they pull you, which I kind of like that better too, except, mentally it was way harder on you because there's only 5 or 6 of you, and you never even talked. I mean, you could never even talk this loud. You whispered all the time, or sign language, but it was, mentally it was a challenge to, when you came up and you came back to the company area, you were ready. I mean, you could get burned out pretty easy on it.
So how long did you do that?
I don't know. I know I was out in a few, more than a few probably, yeah, missions, but not a super long time. I spent way more time in B than I did E.
Okay.
And at the end of E, the deal was, because I was in E before I extended.
Yeah.
When I was in E, then I extended. And the deal was that if you extend, then they thought they'd probably give you a job in the rear. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then they decided I should be the company Jeep driver. The company only had one Jeep. And so then I had to go get my license and all this gobbledygook, which is okay. I did it, and then we changed company commanders, and I don't know who, I can't remember who the company commander was. But he wanted to go to the field up Highway 1, which is like, oh my God, you know, I don't want to go up here. But anyway, we ended up on a bridge, guarding this big cement bridge in the mountains north, up by Quezon, somewhere up there. I don't even know where it was at. But we were up on like a little mini fire base, and then the bridge down below, and then they had guards on that 24 hours a day and whatever, just so nobody would blow it up, I guess. And I don't remember who the first sergeant was then. Reeves had gone home, and this other guy came. Don't remember his name. Came in, and I'm getting nervous because I'm getting short. On my extension, I'm short. You know, I got like 4 or 5 days left in the Army, and I'm out on this mini fire base, and we're getting rockets once in a while. You know, I ain't really liking this real well. I'm getting pretty nervous. But what really irritated me was that one night I actually stayed because I was a Jeep driver, I stayed in the top. And I could stay in and sleep in there if I wanted to. Well, we'd always sleep up on top because it was cooler, you know, but anyway. Because it was under a tower, and we were on. And I grabbed he said, you guys get up on the roof, you know, shoot anybody's coming in the door because the sappers are coming, or supposedly, whatever. So me and this other guy, we grabbed a 16 to go up on top, and I locked and loaded around, and I pulled back my charging handle. And nothing happened, so I finally go back down and talk, and I look, and the bolt's gone out of my gun. And I was a little irritated about that, you know, and he said, well, one of the guys needed a bolt, his broke, and so I took your bolt, and well, you know, it'd have been nice to know,
yeah.
You know, and he said, well, here, take my 45, and I carried it up, and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, you know. I had one clip, you know, anyway. The next day, or the day after, maybe 1 or 2 days, First Sergeant flew out in a loach, landed there, and told the CO that I have to be in because I ETS'd in like 3 days, and they hadn't even started processing me. So he put me in the loach, and you know, and they flew me back to Evans.
Okay.
And I didn't do any checkout. You know, have you just turn all your gear in and all this stuff? I just carried it up in a bucket, and he said, in an arm load, and he First Sergeant said, give it to the supply guy. And he said, he can't turn that in. He said, he just did. Turn it in, and they signed off, and I got out of there. I mean, they sent me back to, I don't know where we went out of going home. I don't really remember. But I had a pair of khakis on. Had no insignia, no rank, nothing, just a pair of khakis and a pair of black shoes, and that's what I went home with.
Okay. Now with recon, did they avoid having any kind of markings or things, or were you just dressed the same way you were dressed when you were with B Company?
No, and with recon, then they would give you fatigues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not fatigue, camo fatigues. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, to think back over that time you spent in Vietnam, are there other particular incidents or things that happened that you kind of stand out for you that you haven't mentioned yet?
No, not really. I mean, it was a lot of real boring stuff, and then total chaos, and then boring, and then chaos, and sometimes chaos and chaos. But yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate, and I've heard people talk about that you know, you have that survivor remorse, and I really did when I came home. I mean, I hid for 2 years. Nobody even knew I was in the Army when I came home with my friends and stuff. I didn't say it. I didn't have anything to do with anything. I mean,
all right. So you get back, you get out right away. So you're just out of the Army once you get back to the States.
When I what?
They just discharge you as soon as you get back to the States?
Yeah, I discharged out of McCord. Or Lewis and McCord, and I went over to McCord, and they flew me to Bismarck, North Dakota, and I called my buddy, and he came down and got me.
Okay. And then now that you're out, what did you do?
What did I do after I got out? Actually, I didn't do anything for about a month, and then I went to work for the job that I was doing before I went in. I went back, and he hired me, and I stayed there 40 years, 42 years.
Right. Okay, you look back at that time now. How do you think being in the service affected you, or what did you learn from it?
I think I grew up a lot. I mean, I knew there was consequences for what I did, and also to take responsibility for it, where before I'd just kind of walk away. But I think I learned that, and I learned that you make friends for life. You know, you really do. And those friends, I've got friends now that are, I mean, like Chip Collins, who's passed away, and Shag, Gary Breidenbach, he's gone, and he didn't even make it a year after he got home, and we were supposed to meet, and I went home instead of meeting him down in Minneapolis, and I've regretted that forever. I mean, because I never saw him again, and I feel bad about that. So I basically didn't want to talk about it. I didn't do anything. I basically hid for years. Even when Ripcord got a hold of me and said, some guy, and I don't even know who it was called, the phone left a message on my phone and said, are you David Cote that was in, Bravo Company 101st? And we trying to get a hold of the Ripcord survivors. Would you give us a call? And I wouldn't even call him back. I mean, and finally about 4 or 5 days after that, my wife said, you really need to call him. So I did, and then I joined the association. But I never went to any reunions. I got the paper, and I read it. And other than that, I had nothing to do with it up until maybe 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And I came to the first reunion, yeah.
And now you're back again.
Yeah.
Because you do get to see some of the guys. So
yeah, you do. You do. I mean, you do.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah, I don't know if I kind of rambled a lot there.
No, that's right. Okay, thank you.